Hello, everyone. My name is Megan Moore, and I'm delighted to be here with you today. I am co-founder of the Center for Functional Nutrition, where our mission statement is to better people's lives and to be a force for good in the world. I'm delighted to have our presenters here this morning or this afternoon or whatever time zone you're actually in. We have Russell Mariani, who is a health educator, author, speaker, digestive wellness, and redox technology expert, and Pat Hanbury, who is a very dear friend and colleague. Pat owns and runs her own redox-based technology business, and she began her Bright Line Eating program in September of 2018. And she has been practicing the water cure for about 20 years and has received many, many benefits and really wanted to share these benefits and the practices of the water cure with her friends. And so she reached out and sent the water cure to her friends, and her friends came up with a number of questions. So we're going to share those questions and answers from Russell with you today. And so I hand the Zoom over to Russell Mariani and Pat Hanbury. Go ahead.
Thank you, Megan. And hello, everybody. And Pat, here we go. Do we need to do any kind of introduction for the water cure in case anybody doesn't know what it is?
Maybe a recap might be appropriate.
Sure. Well, I'll just do a very brief recap. So everybody knows that proper daily hydration is an essential health habit. Nobody questions that. The water cure is simply a science-based approach to making sure that you can restore hydration levels to every cell, organ, and system of the body. And that formula is very simple. It's based on body weight and activity level and where you live. So, for example, if you weigh 200 pounds, you drink half your body weight in ounces in the 24-hour period. So that would be 100 ounces. And you add a little bit of sea salt. All the instructions to specifically how to do the water cure, Pat Hanbury will send to you. Many of you have already started this, and many of you already have that document. So all that's written down very clearly. But the basic idea is half your body weight in water per day. And then you drink that water throughout the day, and you try to sip the water rather than drinking a lot at one time. And because every cell of the body has very specific requirements in terms of oxygen and micronutrients and water, if there's drought at any level, the body begins to call out to get your attention. And so chronic unintentional dehydration is part of the root cause of every negative health condition and symptom you can think of, from headaches to fatigue, to joint pain, to sleeplessness, to skin disorders, and the ability or inability to lose weight or gain weight. So it's a major piece of the puzzle, and that's why we're here today, to answer your questions.
Thank you for that. That was perfect introduction. Yes, we could go deeper, but yes, let's get on with the comments and questions from the ladies that sent them to me. Jackie, my friend Jackie, she has not been consistent, but she noticed that when she drinks the Watercure Recipe water versus plain water, she doesn't have to pee as much as when she drinks the Watercure water. She thinks the recipe water is absorbed into her cells better.
Sorry, what was her name?
Jackie.
Jackie, you're right. You are absorbing the water. That's the whole point of the water cure. That's the primary purpose of adding a little tiny bit of sea salt to the water. the minerals and trace minerals in the sea salt function as electrolytes. And if you could picture the cells of your body being these little circles or three-dimensional water balloons, the presence of the minerals allows the water to be absorbed into the cells, your brain cells, kidney cells, liver cells, bone cells, muscle cells. So, and when you absorb more of the water, it's going to be metabolized very differently. And you'll still pee basically the amount of water that you drink per day, but it should be throughout the day. It should not have urgency. But if you drink a lot of water without salt and minerals in it, then you find yourself peeing excessively, and that's not good. And if you just drink plain water, you actually end up losing some nutrients in the process. So adding the sea salt is very, very important to optimize the benefits of the Watercure.
Great. Okay. And Laura is drinking the recommended water, the Watercure water for her weight, and hasn't noticed a lot of changes, but an increase of energy. And Laura's questions are, she is drinking the minimum amount. So how do you know if you're drinking enough of the Watercure water? And she also asked, should she increase the amount of Watercure intake? And should she warm up the water since she's only drinking room temperature now?
Okay, great. So the drinking half our body weight in ounces of water per day is the absolute minimum amount that each of us needs, even if we're just sitting in a chair all day, even if we're not doing anything. We're lying in bed, if we're sitting in a chair. So that's the minimum. So then it's based on body weight and activity level. So for every hour that you're exercising or every hour that you're sweating, you will definitely need another 16 ounces or 24 ounces, possibly even 32 ounces for every hour that you're vigorously exercising. Or, so body weight, activity level, and where you live. If you live in Reno, Nevada, which Pat lives, and you're outside hiking and it's very hot out, like it's been the last month or so, and you know, or you live anywhere else in the country and it's summertime and it's hot and humid and you're outside gardening, then you're going to be sweating and your body needs more water. So the half of your body weight in ounces is the minimum. And then based on activity level and sweating and humidity and the temperature outside and, you know, what you're doing, what your activities are, you could easily need more water during the course of the day. I know myself, when I'm out cutting the lawn or doing gardening on a very hot summer day, I can easily go through an extra quart of water per hour or maybe every 90 minutes. And I'm very careful when I go outside to always bring my water with me. It's very easy to get dehydrated, especially in the summertime. And, you know, if you call the local hospital and find out, you know, what's the #1 cause of emergency room visits in the summertime, a very high percentage is heat stroke because people are staying on top of their hydration. So did I answer all of her questions in that one?
And she wanted to know if she should warm up her water since she's just doing room temperature right now.
Okay. So for most people, if they're healthy, room temperature water is just fine. As Megan said in the introduction, I'm a digestive wellness expert. That's actually my full-time practice. So I work with people who have a lot of serious digestive disorders, that have serious health challenges. And what I've found over the years is that when somebody is really struggling, when somebody is really sick or has a serious illness, that drinking body temperature water makes it much easier to consume the right amount of water, and it processes much easier. Cold water can be a shock to the system, especially if you're not feeling well. So body temperature water, that's the major reason for the body temperature water. So if you're healthy and you prefer the room temperature water or slightly cooler, that's generally going to be okay. What you want to avoid is drinking ice water and cold water, because your body has to then exert energy to heat that water up. Okay, so that's the primary thinking behind the body temperature water. But again, if you're really healthy, room temperature water should be just fine.
Okay, that's great. Okay, let's see. Yep. And Tasha hasn't started it yet. She's I know from hearing she's a pretty busy lady, and she lives where they use the metric system. So she never looked to see about converting measures to metric for her, and that was her comment.
Okay, sure. Now this is Tasha or Sasha?
Tasha with a T.
Tasha. And is she from Tasmania?
I think she's
Was she the woman from Tasmania?
I think she's from New Zealand.
Oh, New Zealand. Okay, I remember her because that's great. The Kiwi from New Zealand. So the easiest way to do this is just Google ounces to milliliters, or gallons to kilos or something. So the internet has several really good conversion charts. But basically, a liter of water is just a little bit more than a quart. So this is an old milk bottle, and this is 32 ounces. So a liter would be just a little bit more, like, I think it's an extra 2 ounces of water in a liter. So the recommendations for the Watercure is to use an eighth or a quarter, somewhere between an eighth of a teaspoon and a quarter of a teaspoon of the sea salt per quart of water. And that's the upper limit of the salt. So that would equate to either half a teaspoon per gallon or a level teaspoon per gallon. So it's not a lot of salt. And for people who are just starting, you don't have to start with that amount. For many people, if you start with the quote unquote correct amount of salt, the water tastes too salty. So as you'll see in the Watercure recipe, just start with a few grains of salt, a pinch of salt, half a pinch of salt to a full quart of water, and that's plenty. You want to make sure you don't taste the salt, but you will still get the benefit of the salt and the minerals in the salt, even with the smallest amount added. So yeah, but to do the conversion, just Google conversion charts, and you'll be able to do that very quickly, very easily.
Perfect, thank you. And that goes right into Lori's comment and her question. Lori found the recipe water too salty. She cut the salt amount in half, and is that okay?
Yes, absolutely okay. And we just went over that. Maybe I was remembering that next question. No, I won't give myself that much credit. So yeah, so just start with a small amount. And what a lot of people discover is, even if they've had that experience, many people have had that experience. And when they add the salt, they taste the water, they don't like it, so they then reduce the amount of salt, even if it's 1 or 2 grains per quart of water. And then slowly but surely, they add a little bit more salt, and they find that they're now, it might take a couple of weeks, but now they're at that eighth of a teaspoon per quart or a quarter of a teaspoon per quart. And now they prefer the taste of that water. They either prefer the taste, or they can really sense how it's working, and they prefer that. So it's easy to now, a few weeks down the road, or even a few months down the road, able to drink the water with the salt, and people prefer that. It's amazing how many people prefer the water with the salt.
That's my personal experience. Yes.
Definitely
okay.
mine.
Yes. And then Donna says she was doing 64 ounces of the recipe water per day and her legs swelled. She has leg swelling issues frequently. Is it common for leg swelling when starting the Watercure? And that's one question. Donna said she will try again, but she would like to know if you progress with consistently doing the Watercure, does the swelling go away?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say it's common. You know, I've introduced a lot of people over the last 25 years to the Watercure, and it is not common for people to experience swelling unless in advance they know that they have a hypersensitivity to salt. Okay, now there's a big difference between commercial table salt, which is toxic to the body, highly refined, bleached, dried out table salt. We don't want to use that. Doctors are correct to tell people to not use that kind of salt. But that's very different than the organic quality sea salt, which is a therapeutic agent, has medicinal qualities, especially the minerals and the trace minerals. Okay, so, but some people, they may swell not necessarily because of the salt, although some people will, but they might be swelling because they were following the guidelines of the Watercure and they didn't realize it, but they were drinking too much water per day too soon, too quickly. And the cells of their body were not able to absorb all the water right away. And so the swelling becomes a symptom that gets their attention, and the body is simply saying, just slow down, introduce the water a little slower. In other words, if you were drinking 20 ounces of water a day, but the Watercure says that you need to drink 60 ounces of water a day, you don't go from 20 to 60 ounces overnight. Or your body might literally produce a symptom like swelling or like a headache or feeling full or feeling tired, and it's your body just saying, go easy, slow down. And so you might want to go from 20 ounces to 30 ounces, and then a couple days later, go to 36 ounces. And in other words, build up to the 60 ounces more slowly. Give your body several weeks to do that. And then the same thing with the salt. Okay, so it's not always a reaction to the salt. It can be as the body starts hydrating, it's going to start repairing, it's going to start detoxifying. And sometimes when you detoxify old things, you can have some swelling in your body because of that. So again, it's not necessarily because of the salt. It could be because, you know, you just started up a little too fast. And there have been a few people who, when they added a quarter of a teaspoon of salt to the water, the quart of water, it was too much salt. And their ankles did swell a little bit, or their legs did swell a little bit. So in those situations, you want to reduce the salt back until you reach a point where that is not happening. And then as time goes by, you can try to increase the amount of salt very slightly, and then you might find that that does not happen. Again, if it does happen, then it's just one of these, you know, idiosyncratic things where it's unique to your body, and you may be getting more salt through your food and through other things, and so you only need a very small amount in the water. Okay, so those are usually the circumstances around swelling.
Thank you. That was great. All right. Next is Kathy. And Kathy says she has more energy, but she hasn't noticed much change. After the first 2 weeks, though, she had a terrible reaction to her COVID shot, which knocked her down. And Kathy believes that the Watercure is still working since she recovered from the COVID shot reaction. Her energy is back up to where it was after the first 2 weeks. She thinks she needs to increase her intake too. Those are her comments and your thoughts, Russell.
So thanks, Kathy, for that question and those comments. Unfortunately, Pat, you cut out in the third sentence, so I didn't get the middle part of her comments.
Okay. All right. Yeah, she had the reaction to the COVID shot. She did have a real hard time with that. I remember her discussing that. Kathy believes that the water cure is still working since she recovered from the COVID shot reaction. Her energy is back up to where it was after the first 2 weeks, and she thinks she needs to increase her intake too.
Okay. So again, you need to, half your body weight in ounces of water is the minimum that everybody should be doing, no matter what their activity level. And then based on activity level and being outside and what the weather is outside, when it's very hot and humid, you sweat, even if you're not sweating profusely, but your body is working overtime to stay cool, and you use up a lot of water that way. So you really have to stay on top of your water consumption when those factors are at play. So it's great to hear that she had better energy. Literally the number one cause of fatigue is chronic unintentional dehydration. And so many people are out there and they're drinking coffee to boost their energy. And not only is it false energy, the coffee dehydrates their body. So then they really get behind. When your body is properly hydrated, you should have much better energy, consistent energy. And it's not like stimulated energy. It's not like the energy from a drug or from caffeine, which is a drug. It's a very even energy. It's a balanced energy. It's like sunshine from the inside out. That's how we should be feeling when we're properly hydrated.
Great, thank you. Okay, now we go to Erin. Erin is awesome with her, and it kind of goes right into the caffeine thing. She does not drink caffeinated drinks. She wants to know if non-caffeinated fluids like LaCroix or herbal tea, if they don't dehydrate, and if not, then she wouldn't need to have more recipe water to compensate as she would if she drank caffeinated drinks. Let's stop there because she has more questions. So then
okay.
Comments.
Yeah, thank you for asking that particular question, Erin. It's really important. And I'll refer to my mentor in the water cure, Dr. Batman Gelage, who wrote 8 books on the subject of hydration. The first book was called Your Body's Many Cries for Water, meaning that your body will produce symptoms when it starts to become dehydrated. And you don't want to take a medicine for those symptoms. You want to take the best medicine, which is water and salt. So he said very clearly that when you're measuring the water, you only measure the water and the salt. So when we talk about half our body weight in ounces of water and salt, that's how we get hydrated. If you drink any other type of water, carbonated spring water, LaCroix water, if you drink herbal tea, if you drink any other type of tea, if you drink fruit juice, if you have any other type of beverage, you cannot include that in the amount of water that you need, that your body needs for the water cure. He was very, very, very clear about that. Okay, now, is it okay to drink those other things? Yes, of course. But you want to make sure you're getting half your body weight in ounces of water per day as a foundational piece of your health puzzle. Just point out that anything that's carbonated should only be used occasionally. There's a lot of people who drink kind of carbonated water all day long, and that's really not good for your body. Your body works 24 hours a day to take in oxygen, and every time you breathe out, you're breathing out carbon dioxide. And so you don't want to be putting, and all the bubbles in those carbonated beverage is because the beverage manufacturer is literally pumping in carbon dioxide into the water or into the fruit juice or into the other beverages. So the use or consumption of carbonated beverages should be kept to a very, very minimum amount. I wouldn't even say one a day. I would say save it for the weekend and have one or two at most on the weekend. But just stick to purified water and a little bit of salt added. And then, sorry, Pat, you're muted. We had a few more questions from Erin.
Sorry about that. Yes, Erin, yes, her next comment and question. Erin also asked that if her other fluid intakes could dilute the water recipe salt and that's absorbed into her cells in some way. And then there's another after that. So let's handle that one.
Yeah, so the simple answer is yes. If you're over consuming, let me put it this way. The only beverage your body absolutely needs is water. Okay? So every other beverage is extra. It's not necessary. Okay? And so it's possible if you consume too much in volume of any other type of beverage, it could interfere with your hydration levels, okay? So keep all those other type of beverages to a bare minimum, and you'll do just fine.
Perfect, thank you. And then she also asked about her husband eats processed food with lots of added processed salt. Would sea salt be absorbed better or differently? And to add on to that, he has kidney stone issues, and would table salt and or sea salt affect the formation of more kidney stones?
Yes, so I can speak directly to this from firsthand experience, and Megan will remember, but in the summer of 1994, the summer of 1995, the summer of 1996, 3 summers in a row, Megan took me to the emergency room at the hospital because I was passing a kidney stone. I had a kidney stone attack. Now, this was the early 90s. I knew since the mid-1970s and always went out of my way to drink purified water and spring water. But I never drank enough water. So I was chronically dehydrated, underhydrated. And the number one cause for the formation of kidney stones is to not be drinking enough water. So I finally discovered the Watercure in the winter of 1997. And since that time, I have not had another kidney stone episode or attack. So absolutely, the Watercure is not only the best means to hydrate the body, but if a person has had a history of kidney stones or even gallstones, the best thing you can do, one of the best things you can do, definitely in the top 3 or definitely the top 5, is to make sure that you're properly hydrated every day. And again, there is a big difference between commercial table salt, which will dehydrate you, and the presence of a very small amount of sea salt in the water, which again will allow for the water to be better absorbed and metabolized inside the cell. So people who are consuming processed foods, generally speaking, are taking in far too much processed salt. And not only is it not good for them, kind of in a general way, it's not a nutrient, they're further dehydrating their body, because if someone is consuming a lot of processed foods, generally speaking, they're not drinking a lot of water either. So.
Perfect. That's perfect. Okay. And then Jean had some comments and a few questions. She comments that the Watercure has, this is the quote, the Watercure has helped with the food chatter, and that resulting in my belief I was not hungry but thirsty. And that food chatter, we all know what that is here with the bright line eating people. So that was
talk
a
about
comment.
Pat, talk about that. Explain that, because that's actually a new term for me. I'm sure I know what it is, but I'd like to hear you describe it.
Well, you know, you get, when you see food, it's really hard when you're addicted to sugar and flour like us, and with us trying to eat our way we eat, your mental mind starts talking about, oh, well, you can have a little bit of this, or what, there's this in the house because you have other people that don't eat like you do. So you get all of, or you go buy a bakery, or you whatever, and you get all these little things going, well, you can have some of that, it's okay. And that really will cause problems with us abstaining from those things that are addictive to us. So that's the food chatter.
Yeah, very interesting. So, and usually the things that we become addicted to that ruin our health are toxic or poisonous. So it's a good thing to keep those lines bright, to keep the bright lines clear, to keep the bright lines light, because that food chatter is tempting you to take something into your body that your body really doesn't want and absolutely doesn't need. So that's good clarification.
And then Jean also has, it is hard to distinguish between ASEA effects and the water cure, but the reduced hunger is for sure the water cure. And that was another comment Jean had.
Okay, and Jean is, I believe, using the redox signaling supplement. That's what she referred to as the redox supplement. So, and all I'll say about that is that hydration, proper daily hydration, is the key to everything in the body functioning better. But what's so interesting about redox signaling science, redox signaling biology, redox signaling biochemistry, is that redox signaling molecules are real things. They're manufactured in every cell of our body. And when the cells of our body produce enough of them, they are responsible for metabolizing everything. And they're also responsible for bringing the water into the cell. I talked earlier about the presence of the minerals and the trace minerals functioning as electrolytes, and that allows for better absorption of the water molecules into the cell, which is where we want the water to go. But if you could look on the cell membrane of any cell of the body, you would see that there are thousands of tiny little microscopic openings, and these are called portals. And then if you could look even closer into the portal, you would see that there's a little gatekeeper at the gate, at the portal. And those gatekeepers are redox signaling molecules. So literally the intelligence on the cell membrane is regulated by redox signaling molecules. So whether or not all of the good things that you put into your body every day, including water, and the minerals and the salt, whether or not all of that is fully taken into the cell has to do with redox signaling molecules. And this explains why so many people, when they're introduced to the redox supplement, and they're already doing a lot of very good things, they seem to, the addition of the redox seems to enhance all of the good things they're already doing, and that was reflected in Jean's comment. So thank you, Jean. Oh, you're muted, Pat. Sorry.
That's good because my phone rang.
Okay.
Sorry about that. I didn't turn it down. Okay. All right. So thank you for that. Yes. And then let's see. She had a question: how much salted water can I consume in one day? And you've already kind of answered that, but revisit that.
Yeah, so all the water that I drink has a little bit of salt in it. Now, if you want to have a glass of water without salt in it, that's fine, no problem. I've been doing this for 25 years, so I prefer to have literally all the water that I drink to have some small amount of salt in it. And so that's the recommendation. Again, the reason for the salt is it's going to absorb more efficiently into your cells, and that's where we want the water going. So was there another question from Jean?
Jean also, she had some more comments about that. She notices that her joint movement is more fluid. She has increased endurance and think it's due to the water cure. And then her question is, or could it be the combination with the redox signaling molecules from ASEA?
Yes, it definitely can be the combination. And that's why it's such a powerful, helpful combination. But it's also true that many people have the similar type of benefit by just doing the water cure. So it's very significant. I mean, everything that, when you think of your body, everything that the body is composed of, every structure, even your bones, people don't think about this, but even your bones, bone cells are mostly water. It's hard to kind of imagine that. But so your joints have fluids in them, synovial fluids. Your muscles, a lot of water. So everything that's happening in the body is happening in a fluid matrix. And that's why all negative health symptoms and conditions are partly caused by underhydration, dehydration at some level. So we want to introduce everyone on the planet to the water cure as a first step. And then again, I've been aware of and studying redox science for 10 years. And I am definitely of the opinion that once we introduce people to the water cure, this is probably the next most important thing that you could do, as the most fundamental thing that you can do to enhance cell signaling, to enhance cell communication, to enhance cellular metabolism, all the things that cells do. They do better when they're hydrated, and they do better when the redox potential of those cells is normal.
Great. And then she also mentioned, which is something that is a topic with bright line eating people, she also mentioned her bowel clears after meals now, since doing the water cure water.
Yeah, so that's, as a digestive wellness expert, I see this all the time. It takes a quart of water. So let me say it this way. Your body produces or manufactures a quart of digestive enzymes every single day. That's a lot, okay? And your body uses another quart of water to process the food, absorb the nutrients from that food, and then push the rest of that food, turn it into waste, and then that becomes a bowel movement. That requires another quart of water. So that's 2 quarts of water right there just to process our food, absorb the nutrients, produce enough enzymes, and turn the rest into waste. So that's a big piece of the digestive issue. And then if you realize that in the general population, in every 3-month period, something like 90 million people, that's just in the United States alone, that's over a third of the population of the United States is having some type of irritable bowel condition or symptom. So absolutely, if you have a history of constipation or slow, sluggish type bowel movements, and you start doing the water cure, your bowel movement activity is going to improve dramatically. And frankly, if you're on the other side of that spectrum, if you're having loose urgent bowel movements, loose urgent frequent bowel movements, and you start drinking water properly and doing the water cure correctly and consistently, you're going to see improvement in those type of bowel movements also. So again, for every organ and system of your body, hydration is an essential piece of the puzzle to restoring normal functioning.
Oh, that's great. That was everything that all my friends sent in. And I had a question too. I thought about this, and there was, for athletes, they have these electrolyte balancing drops for people who are, more extreme athletes than, especially me personally, but I was wondering about those for people who, want to take it and add any kind of electrolytes a little differently. So I was just curious about that.
Yeah, so I've introduced many elite athletes to the Watercure, and they find that just adding the sea salt, so again, good quality sea salt has a minimum of 40 to 45 minerals and trace minerals in that, okay? So you're getting all of your electrolytes that way. And then a lot of athletes use the redox supplement in addition to the Watercure to optimize performance, optimize oxygen intake into the cell when you're exercising, optimizing the release of lactic acid, the breaking down of lactic acid, the clearing of metabolites through the exercise process, so less recovery time after exercise. So that's how I've approached it. The only other thing I would think about would be on a daily basis, you definitely want to make sure you're getting a full spectrum micronutrient supplement for your vitamins and your amino acids and things like that. And, Pat can make a recommendation to you about the type of superfood type supplements that we use and recommend. But Pat, I just wanted to mention one other thing. I don't think we addressed it in the questions, but it came up. Somebody had emailed me this week and said they were drinking distilled water and putting the salt in the distilled water. So I just want to emphasize that distilled water is not for daily consumption. Distilled water is pure H2O, which does not exist in nature. And it will take out toxins, which is the reason most people are doing it, drinking distilled water, but it also pulls out nutrients. I've only met a very few people who drank distilled water over an extended period of time, but in every situation, they became very deficient in nutrients. They developed micronutrient deficiency disorders. So do not drink distilled water on any kind of regular basis. You should limit the drinking of distilled water to maybe 3 or 5 days, maybe maximum 10 days, if you're doing a very specific type of cleanse, but it should be supervised. If it's not supervised, I don't recommend the consumption of distilled water under any circumstances. So what you want to be drinking is if you only have tap water at home, you want to get a purifier. So don't drink tap water, but there are very good point of use water purifiers that will convert that tap water into purified water, no contaminants at all, or buy a very good quality bottled water or spring water. So I just wanted to point that out. We don't want to be drinking distilled water or you will run into problems down the road. So thank you, everybody, for those great questions. I hope this was very helpful. Pat, we'll let you close it out.
Okay, well, thank you. That was great. And I really appreciate Russell and Megan for coming and doing this for us to help us on our healing journey and as we move forward and getting better health all the way around. So if anyone has any more questions that they'd like to ask, I'll be more than happy to refer them on to Russell and Megan. And so send it to me and we will be sharing the Zoom recording with everyone who is on my list. And yes, and I know there's a few ladies who are forwarding it to their friends. So that is absolutely perfect. So thank you very much. And everyone, I really appreciate your attendance and your trying this. And since we're all looking for better health, I think this was a great thing we did as introducing the Watercure. So thank you very much, and we'll send it out. Bye. Thank you.
Goodbye,
Bye,
everyone.
Dave. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Pat. And thank
Yeah, thanks, Pat, for coordinating.
Yeah, definitely.
My pleasure.